Well, it's just a ridiculously gorgeous early January day here in Omaha, so it's a perfect day to be piddling around in the garage. Okay, first thing, I'm going to end up having to, rejet and retune the carburetor as a result of the engine work anyway, so I figured I may as well go ahead and get it all cleaned up. So there it is, sitting in a pine sol soak, and let it sit there for, I don't know, probably more than a few days until I get back to it, but should get it all cleaned up real nice. That's the easy part. Here's the trouble. The old camshaft is on the left, the new one is on the right, and by the way, if you notice, the new one is now all cleaned up, all of that whatever cosmoline stuff they had on it. Did not come off easy, but got it. Anyway, okay, here's the old cam, the original Harley-Davidson L grind cam. Take a look at the lobe there, the part with the L on it. You see what we're working with. Okay, here's the new Woods. This is a W6H cam. Considerably bigger lobe. In fact, we can measure it. So here we go. Including the base circle. Oops, try it again. It's a little hard to do one-handed. Okay, what do I got? 1.36 something. More or less, 1.365, let's say. New one. Ooh, much bigger, 1.42. So it's like, what's that, like 50 thou more? It's a lot. Okay, which the problem that's causing is right over here. Here's the cam chest, and the cam will end up running basically in here, and right here, and right here, it's hitting. So what I'm going to have to do is get in here with a grinder and grind out a little bit of clearance so that the cam clears the case. And that shouldn't be any big deal, but main thing I'm worried about is I'm going to have to be rather careful and keep shavings and debris out of here, because I'm obviously not going to disassemble the whole thing just to do this. So that's what's happening today. My concern on the grinding is having a bunch of either grinder dust or metal shavings getting into the works here. So my plan is I've got basically paper towels soaked in kerosene all over everything. So hopefully the towels keep the debris out, and any debris that lands on them will stick to the kerosene because they're wet. I did a quick search. I can't find any videos of anybody telling how to do this, so I'm just kind of winging it, but this seems like it ought to work. Going to be going to work here in a second with that guy. Just a little air grinder with a little wheel on the end, and well, we'll see how it goes. Well, that's it after the first pass. I'm probably going to need more than one. I haven't checked yet. I'd really rather not take off too much, so it's probably going to be do a little, come back, test it, do a little, come back, test it. Got the rags pulled out, went ahead and got a spray bottle filled with kerosene. So I went ahead and just sprayed it all down and letting it drip out. So hopefully that's cleaning off any dust or debris that got stuck down in there. Anyway, let's give it a check and see how we did. Well, even without putting the cam chest cover on and rotating the engine, I can tell we're no good at this point. So what I did here, if you take the cam, I have to move that thing there. If I rotate it so that lobe is well out of the way, this is a little tough to do one-handed, bear with me. Okay, so here you can see that lobe is well out of the way, and you see how the cam just bottoms out completely. Nice. That's, you know, you want it to be able to go back like that. Now if I rotate it so that that lobe is pointed down, see that? See all that slop in there? That's as far back as it's going. The cam is hitting the case. That lobe is hitting the case. So we're gonna have to get a little deeper into it. Well, I think you can start seeing. I don't know if it's too much light. We're getting there. It's just nibbling a little bit away at a time. If you look down in there, and there's not a whole lot of room left where the alloy stops and that whatever that outer bearing begins. So we'll see what happens when we get there, but I'm getting pretty damn close. So that's what's up for now. And success. I decided to try test fitting the Camshaft cover, and I realized without it the cam is kind of, you know, laying down a little bit because the bushing on the end is going to basically keep it horizontal, and it was setting down into the gears just a smidge. Anyway, with that installed, I can't do it one-handed, but the motor rotates freely. We've got a fair amount of end play in the cam that I'll have to measure once I get the gasket in there, and then I'll go down to Dillon Brothers and get the right shims. This thing, interestingly, I don't know if this is interesting or not, but it's true that there were no spacers or shims on the camshaft from the factory. So, for whatever that's worth. Anyway, that's that. Now our next step is to get the breather gear, spacers specified, selected, and get all that figured out. Measure my end play on the cam, go down and get the shims, and we're pretty close to having the camshaft side of this thing buttoned up. Okay, so now we're doing the breather gear shim end play. So this is the breather gear. This thing comes out. This is the new S&S all steel breather, which I hope is a good idea, replacing the stock plastic one. Anyway, the S&S guys gave us an assortment of shims. These are all in various thicknesses. So my favorite guy in Louisiana, Shex, he said the key to this is what we want to do is we want to put a straight edge across the case, find the shim that basically leaves it flush. So the shim, well, here, let's do one. So the shim sitting there, we want it to be flush. That one's obviously too thick. So when you get that to where, pick the one that leaves it flush, and then the gasket thickness minus the squish of the gasket, that'll end up being the clearance on there, and we're home free. So just got to get one of those picked out and we're rolling. Okay, I got to geek out a little bit here. My dad had a print shop when I was a kid, and the most fascinating thing in the world to me was going down there and watching the presses running. Just amazing stuff. And so I kind of get into this stuff more than I should. It's the mechanical engineer in me that just can't get enough of it. I mean, I just got done. The cam is timed to the timing gear. The breather gear is timed to the cam. You see the little timing marks. Everything lines up. And what's cool to me about this is mechanical software. That's literally what this is. All the information about how the engine is supposed to run is built into these parts, which to me is just the coolest thing in the world. So anyway, thank you for indulging me as I geek out on a camshaft. Okay, so here's where we're at. We've got the chest cover and the gasket are installed. It's all coming apart again in a minute, and here's why. The next step is going down in here, so we can get a good shot of that. And this we can see there's, you know, however much end play in the cam. And so what I did was took some feeler gauges and stacked them up, and you measure down in, I don't know if we can see it, down in there. It's too dark to see, I think. Well, anyway, maybe we can clean this up later. There we go. I don't know if you can see the gap or not. I'll try to highlight it. Anyway, so you measure it all out. It comes out to 82 thousandths is my current end play. So went down to Dillon Brothers, and one thing I will give a major shout out to those guys. You know, a lot of the, well, it's nice to have a dealer that still has some guys around that are familiar with the, you know, bikes of this era. And so anyway, the Reader's Digest version of it is, they said what you need is a 70 thou shim. This was a recommendation from Chuck down at Dillon Brothers, so thank you, Chuck. So I got a 70 thou shim, which will take my total clearance from, you know, 82 to 12. So all we got to do now is pull this all back apart, put the shim on, retime the cam, stuff it all back together, and the bottom end of the cam chest part of this job will be done. And just like that, we're all done. Check the final end play on the cam, we're perfect. See, I got a ton of assembly lube on the lobes. The only thing left to do, I suppose, the factory service manual, which has been my companion all day. It says to dump some oil just down in there to make sure there's plenty of oil when this thing first starts up. Probably go ahead and do that. Got to put the rags back around the connecting rods. But otherwise, we're done. Duke, we're done. Say hello. We seem to have low enthusiasm. All right. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. My daughter's asking me questions. What do you got?
I'm amused that you ordered coffee and toothbrushes from Amazon.
Well, you know, that's like our monthly, automatic subscription thing. And you guys are always doing this to me, so turnabout is fair play. I'll do one to you.
I never do this to you.
I know your sisters do, so you're being punished on their behalf.
I just think it's funny because your generation's all like, oh, millennials. They're all like, but like really your generation is the one that orders trivial things off of online.
Yeah, you know what? When was the last time we were out of coffee? Never. Thank you.
I drink Folgers.
Oh, no. Who's the millennial now? Snob.
Sorry, I have decent taste buds.
Oh, so burned.
Yeah, I burned you. Bye, Dad.
Bye. All right.